The sun began to rise over the historic city of Charleston, South Carolina, as Father Michael Bennett observed the facade of St. Francis Church with a contemplative gaze. At 45, with prematurely grey hair and deep eyes that revealed his observant nature, Michael had dedicated his life to theological studies and the preservation of America's religious historical heritage. Professor Bennett. The voice of young archaeologist Sarah Thompson echoed across the church courtyard. "I found something you need to see immediately." Michael followed Sarah to the church basement, where restoration work had revealed a hidden chamber behind a false wall. By the light of their flashlights, archaic symbols decorated the stone walls. In the center, a peculiar engraving caught his attention, a buffalo with a compass rose mark on its forehead. "I've never seen anything like this in colonial American churches," murmured Sarah, adjusting her glasses on her thin nose. "That's because it shouldn't be here," replied Michael, gently touching the symbol. "This is a very ancient symbol predating European settlement." Michael's cell phone vibrated, interrupting his reflection. It was a message from Cardinal Sullivan, his former seminary professor and current member of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. "Michael, I need your presence in Washington, D.C. urgently. A matter of extreme importance to the Church requires your expertise." 3 days later, Michael entered the imposing office of the Cardinal at the USCCB headquarters in Washington. The elderly religious leader, 78 years old with an always serene expression, seemed restless. "My dear Michael, thank you for coming so quickly." The Cardinal offered him a seat. "Have you seen the recent news about the incident at the Vatican?" "About the buffalo in St. Peter's Square?" Michael responded. "I thought it was sensationalist news or some manipulated video." Cardinal Sullivan opened his laptop and showed him the images. A dark-coated buffalo crossing St. Peter's Square during a papal mass kneeling before the altar. "The Holy See is in an uproar. But what few know," the Cardinal lowered his voice, "is that this is not an isolated event, and the mark on the animal's forehead—" "An archaic compass rose," completed Michael, feeling a chill run down his spine. "Exactly like the one we found in Charleston." "Precisely," confirmed Sullivan. "The Vatican has requested trusted specialists for a discreet consultation. Your name was the first I suggested." "Why me?" "Your thesis on pre-colonial Christian symbolism in the Americas. Plus, you have roots in South Carolina, where there are historical records that may be connected to this phenomenon." On the Cardinal's desk, an old folder contained photographs of historical documents with the same buffalo symbol. These records belong to the private archive of the Williams family. Mrs. Eleanor Williams, a 92-year-old lady, is the last guardian of a family secret, dating back to the colonial period. She lives in a historic plantation house near Savannah and has agreed to receive you. "What exactly are we looking for, Eminence?" "A relic known as the Staff of Two Truths, an artifact mentioned in apocryphal documents, supposedly with the power to discern truth from falsehood. According to legend, it was secretly brought to America in the 16th century by members of an unknown religious order." Michael felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Something much bigger than an archaeological curiosity was at stake. There are forces, Michael, both within and outside the Church, that do not wish for this relic to be found. People who prefer certain truths to remain buried. When he left the Cardinal's office, Michael couldn't imagine he was being watched. In the parking lot, an elegant middle-aged woman in a luxury car was speaking on the phone. He accepted the mission. "Yes, he's following exactly the path we predicted." She paused. "The plan continues as planned, Dr. Parker. Soon, the staff will be in our hands." If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. The winding road that led to the Williams colonial plantation snaked through the Georgia countryside. Michael observed the landscape through the taxi window, his mind filled with unanswered questions. The driver, a friendly older gentleman with a thick accent, broke the silence. "You going to visit Mrs. Eleanor?" he asked, adjusting his rearview mirror. "She doesn't receive many visitors except for her granddaughter, Dr. Emily." "Do you know the family?" asked Michael, interested. "Everyone around here knows the Williams family, traditional family owned. Half the land in the region since before the Civil War. But now only the old lady and her granddaughter remain. They say they guard a hidden treasure on the plantation." Michael smiled politely, without revealing that he was possibly there precisely because of this treasure. The Williams plantation appeared after a curve, an imposing 18th century construction with thick white adobe walls and blue windows. On the porch, a woman of approximately 40, brown hair tied in a disheveled bun and serious expression, was waiting. "Emily Williams," she introduced herself coldly when Michael got out of the taxi. "My grandmother is expecting you, Father Bennett." "Just Michael, please," he gently corrected. "Thank you for receiving me." Emily led him through the corridors of the centuries-old house, where antique portraits seemed to observe them with enigmatic gazes. They arrived at a spacious library, with dark wooden shelves from floor to ceiling. Seated in a leather armchair, a white-haired lady with aristocratic posture was leafing through an ancient book. "Grandma, Father Bennett has arrived," announced. Emily, Mrs. Eleanor Williams, raised her blue eyes, still vivid despite her advanced age. "He's no longer a priest," the elderly woman corrected, surprising Michael. "He left the priesthood 8 years ago, but continues to serve the church as an academic. Isn't that right, Professor Bennett?" "You're well informed," he replied, intrigued. "When you live as long as I have, you learn to know people even before meeting them." She gestured to a nearby chair. "Sit down. Emily, bring the tea and then leave us to talk alone." Emily left, reluctantly, casting a distrustful look at Michael. "My granddaughter is too protective," explained Mrs. Williams when they were alone. "She graduated in history from Columbia, but abandoned a promising career to take care of me and our legacy." The elderly woman rose with surprising agility and walked to a painting on the wall, depicting an austere man in 19th century attire. "My great-great-grandfather, Jonathan Williams," she introduced. "It was he who received the mission to protect the secret." She rotated the painting, revealing a safe embedded in the wall. With trembling fingers, she entered a combination. "Cardinal Sullivan informed me of your coming. He said you found the buffalo mark in Charleston. You know about this?" Michael leaned forward, intrigued. "The buffalo is merely the messenger, Professor. It always appears when the staff needs to change guardian." From the safe, she removed a leather-bound book with yellowed pages. "This diary belonged to Father Anthony Williams. Yes, the same Williams of the famous sermons. What few know is that he was a member of the Brotherhood of the Staff." Michael received the book with reverence. Father Anthony Williams, a central figure in early American Catholic literature and a fervent defender of Native Americans during the colonial period. But this contradicts everything we know about Williams. "Official history rarely reveals the whole truth," Mrs. Williams smiled. "Williams discovered the Staff of Two Truths during his mission in the Amazon. He understood its power and the danger it represented. That's why he brought it to the American South, far from the eyes of the British Crown and the Church itself." Carefully leafing through the diary, Michael found detailed drawings of the sacred buffalo and the archaic compass rose. According to Williams, the staff was carved from an unknown wood with peculiar properties. Whoever holds it cannot utter lies and can discern truth in the words of others. It's hard to believe. I'm not asking you to believe, Professor, only to find the staff before others do. Her eyes became urgent. Since the incident at the Vatican, strange people have been circulating around town asking questions. Emily returned with the tea, interrupting the conversation. Her cell phone rang and she answered, moving away into the hallway. When she returned, her countenance had changed. "Grandma, we need to end this meeting now," she said firmly. "I just received a call from Dr. Teresa. Your ex-husband is in town, asking about the Williams family." Mrs. Williams's face paled. "Richard Parker, how did he find out?" Michael felt the tension in the air. Something much bigger was at play, and he had just entered a labyrinth of centuries-old secrets where he didn't know who were allies and who were enemies. "Who is Richard Parker?" asked Michael as Emily quickly closed the library curtains. "My ex-husband," Emily answered dryly, and one of the country's biggest collectors of sacred art. But that's not what brings him to Savannah. Richard always knew our family kept secrets, explained Mrs. Williams, carefully storing Father William's diary in her safe. For years he tried to discover them through Emily. When he realized he wouldn't succeed, the marriage ended. In quite a turbulent manner, added Emily bitterly. He never accepted that I chose loyalty to my family above his ambitions. Michael felt he was only scratching the surface of a much more complex story. Suddenly, the sound of a car parking caught everyone's attention. Emily ran to the window and peeked through a gap in the curtains. "It's him," she whispered, "and he's not alone. There's someone else in the car." Mrs. Williams stood up with surprising determination for her age. "There's no time to lose. Follow me, Professor." The elderly woman activated a hidden mechanism in one of the bookshelves, revealing a secret passage. Michael looked at Emily, who nodded, encouraging him to follow her grandmother. "I'll distract them." "I'll buy as much time as possible," promised Emily, heading for the main door. Michael followed Mrs. Williams through a narrow stone corridor, illuminated only by the weak light of old lamps fixed to the walls. From these hung religious paintings, from the colonial period, all discreetly containing the buffalo symbol in some detail. "This passage was built in the 18th century, to shelter persecuted priests," explained the lady as they walked. Later it served as an escape route for enslaved people seeking freedom. The history of this house is intertwined with the struggle for truth and justice. They reached a circular underground chamber where several passages opened in different directions. In the center was a stone table with carvings of the same compass rose that Michael had seen in Charleston. "The diary I showed you contains only part of the story. The rest is here." Mrs. Williams pressed certain points of the compass rose in a specific sequence. A secret compartment opened in the floor, revealing an ornate wooden box. When the elderly woman opened it, Michael saw an ancient parchment and a bronze medallion with the buffalo symbol. "This map shows the true hiding place of the staff. It was divided into 3 parts for greater security. One is here, another in Charleston, where you found the symbol, and the third." "At the Vatican?" completed Michael, finally understanding the connection. "Exactly. The appearance of the buffalo was no coincidence. It's a sign that the staff needs to be reunited." She handed the medallion to Michael. "This will open the way when you're in the right place." Sounds of discussion reached them faintly. Emily's voice seemed tense, confronting whoever had arrived. "Richard always suspected that the Williams family treasure was more than simple material wealth," continued Mrs. Williams. "But it was only recently, after the incident at the Vatican, that he connected the dots." "How did he know I would be here?" Mrs. Williams sighed deeply. The Brotherhood of the Staff has existed for centuries, but not all its members remain faithful to the original purpose. Some believe that the power of the staff should be used to influence, not to illuminate. Footsteps approached through the corridor they had traversed. Emily appeared breathless. "I managed to mislead them temporarily, but Richard demanded to see all the properties. He said he has authorization for a historical survey." "Falsified, no doubt," commented the elderly woman with contempt. "We need to get the professor out of here before they find him." Emily indicated another passage. "This tunnel leads to St. Benedict's Chapel, 2 miles from here. From there, a trusted friend will take you back to Charleston." "I can't leave you facing this alone," protested Michael. "We're not defenseless, Professor," smiled Mrs. Williams. "We've guarded this secret for generations. We know how to protect ourselves." Emily handed Michael a small bag with William's diary and the map fragment. "Find the second part in Charleston. There, look for Sarah Thompson. She knows more than she showed when you found the symbol." "Sarah, she's part of this?" "We're all pieces in a very old game, Professor." Emily smiled enigmatically. "Some pieces just don't know they're playing." Before leaving, Michael heard male voices approaching. One, authoritative and cold, was talking about the historical importance of the plantation and its archaeological potential. The other, with a foreign accent, discreetly mentioned the artifact and the manifestation of the sacred animal. As he moved away through the dark tunnel, Michael realized that what had begun as an academic curiosity had transformed into a dangerous quest for an object whose power he still didn't fully understand. The rain was falling heavily on the cobblestone streets of Charleston when Michael arrived at the inn where he was staying. Soaked and exhausted, he locked himself in his room and spread out on the bed the items he had brought from Savannah: Father Anthony Williams's diary, the map fragment, and the bronze medallion. Studying the map in the dim light of the bedside lamp, he identified geographic landmarks that corresponded to Charleston's topography. A specific point was marked precisely where St. Francis Church was located. However, the notes in the margins were in a coded language that he couldn't completely decipher. His cell phone rang, startling him. It was Sarah Thompson. "Professor Bennett, where have you been? I've been trying to contact you for days." The young archaeologist's voice sounded anxious. "We need to talk, Sarah, in private." "I agree. Meet me in 30 minutes at Harper's Cafe. Come alone and be discreet." Harper's Cafe was a cozy establishment near the Historical Museum. When Michael arrived, Sarah was already waiting for him at a back table, partially hidden by a wooden partition. She wore a dark raincoat and carefully observed each person who entered. "You have the medallion?" she asked, as soon as he sat down, dispensing with greetings. "How do you know about the medallion?" Michael narrowed his eyes, suddenly cautious. "I've belonged to the Brotherhood of the Staff for 10 years, she revealed in a low voice. "I was assigned to monitor the Charleston area after ancient documents suggested the presence of one of the map pieces here." Michael studied her for a moment, trying to reconcile the image of the enthusiastic young archaeologist he knew with this woman of determined gaze and measured words. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "I wasn't sure I could trust you," she smiled briefly. "I'm still not, actually. But Emily contacted me last night. She said you received the medallion and part of the map." Sarah ordered 2 coffees and continued. "Richard Parker isn't just a collector. He represents a group of influence inside and outside the church that believes the staff should be used to control narratives, not to reveal them. They call themselves the Guardians of Silence." "And you? What do you call yourselves?" "The Children of Truth." Sarah smiled at noticing Michael's skeptical expression. "I know it sounds melodramatic, but these names have centuries of history." The coffee arrived, allowing a pause in the conversation. When the waitress moved away, Sarah continued, "What you discovered in the underground chamber of St. Francis wasn't a coincidence. I directed the excavations to that specific location based on clues in William's diaries." "So you know the content of the diaries?" "Only fragments. The Brotherhood keeps its knowledge compartmentalized for protection. No one possesses all the pieces." She looked out the window, checking the street. "We need to act quickly. I have information that Richard arrived in Charleston this morning." Sarah took Michael to her car, parked on a side street. In the trunk, hidden under a tarp, was archaeological equipment: powerful flashlights, excavation tools, ropes, and a compact metal detector. "Tonight we'll enter St. Francis's chamber again. The medallion should reveal the exact location where the second part of the map is hidden." On the way to the church, Michael asked, "Why now? If this staff has existed for centuries, why the sudden urgency?" "The appearance of the buffalo at the Vatican changed everything." Sarah skillfully maneuvered through the steep streets. "It's a sign that the times of revelation are approaching. There are ancient prophecies that mention a period when institutions will face a judgment of truth." They arrived at St. Francis Church through a side entrance normally closed to the public. Sarah used an old key to open the gate. "I have official authorization for academic research. No one will question our presence." Inside the Baroque church, the sculptures seemed to observe them with solemn expressions as they headed to the sacristy. From there, a discreet door led to the staircase that descended to the underground chamber discovered weeks before. By the light of the flashlights, the buffalo symbol on the stone wall seemed more vivid than Michael remembered. Sarah positioned the medallion over the mark on the wall, rotating it until a soft click was heard. A section of the wall receded a few inches, revealing a safe embedded in the stone. Inside was a rolled parchment similar to the one Mrs. Williams had given him. "The second part of the map," whispered Sarah, taking the parchment with reverence. At that moment, they heard footsteps approaching from the staircase. Sarah quickly turned off the flashlight, plunging them into darkness. She whispered in Michael's ear, "We're not alone." If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you're watching. From we continue. In the darkness of the underground chamber, Michael and Sarah remained motionless, breathing the humid air and trying to distinguish the sounds coming from the staircase. The light of flashlights danced on the walls of the corridor leading to them. "This way, Doctor. The records indicate that the chamber was in this direction," said a male voice with an Italian accent. "Are you sure we won't be discovered, Father?" "Lawrence," replied another voice that Michael immediately recognized. "Richard Parker." Sarah squeezed Michael's arm and pointed to a crack in the opposite wall, almost imperceptible in the gloom. Silently, they slipped into the narrow space seconds before the intruders entered the main chamber. Through a small opening, they could observe Richard Parker, a tall, elegant man of approximately 50, with perfectly combed grey hair and an impeccable suit, accompanied by a middle-aged priest who wore civilian clothes but had a discreet clerical collar. "The symbol is here, exactly as described in the documents," commented the priest, illuminating the wall, "with the buffalo symbol. But it seems someone has been here recently. See these marks in the dust." Richard examined the location with keen eyes. "Emily underestimates me. I always knew her family was hiding something more valuable than colonial relics. When I saw the news about the buffalo at the Vatican, all the pieces fit together." He touched the symbol on the wall. "The Brotherhood of the Staff isn't just a legend." The priest pressed the symbol at different points, trying to activate some mechanism. "Without the medallion, we won't be able to open the compartment," he concluded, frustrated. "That professor must already have it." Richard clenched his fists. "We need to locate him immediately." In the narrow passage, Sarah whispered to Michael, "This tunnel leads to an exit through the old exchange building. If we follow it, we can escape without being seen." Carefully, they began to move away, but the uneven floor betrayed Michael. His foot knocked over a small stone that echoed in the silence. "Someone's here," exclaimed Father Lawrence, directing his flashlight toward the crack in the wall. "Run!" shouted Sarah, pulling Michael through the narrow tunnel, pursued by the beams of the flashlights. They advanced through the winding corridor, occasionally stumbling on the irregular stones. The tunnel seemed endless, forking several times. "This way." Sarah took a sharp right turn. Michael followed her, but as he turned, he collided with a figure that appeared unexpectedly. He fell backward, disoriented, while Sarah wielded her flashlight as an improvised weapon. "Professor Bennett? Sarah?" Emily Williams's familiar voice surprised them. "Thank God I found you." "Emily, how did you find us here?" asked Sarah, relieved but confused. "No time for explanations. Richard and his associates are everywhere. We have to leave the city immediately." Guided by Emily, they navigated through a labyrinth of tunnels until they emerged in a dusty basement. They climbed a wooden staircase that creaked under their feet and found themselves in the back of an old closed craft shop. "My car is parked 2 blocks from here," Emily informed, leading them through narrow alleys to avoid the main streets. When they finally reached the vehicle and departed, Michael demanded explanations. "How did you know we would be in the tunnels?" "After Richard left the plantation, I realized he mentioned Charleston several times on the phone." Emily skillfully maneuvered the car through the steep streets. "I called Sarah, and she told me about your plans. I came as fast as I could." "And your grandmother?" asked Michael, concerned. "She's safe. Catherine took her to our refuge in the mountains. Mrs. Williams knows these moments of crisis. It's not the first time our family has had to hide." Sarah took the 2 map fragments from her backpack and spread them on the car's central console. "With these 2, we only need the part that's at the Vatican." "That means," began Michael. "Yes, we need to go to Rome," completed Emily. "The map fragments are like pieces of a puzzle. Only together do they reveal the exact location of the staff." "But how will we enter the Vatican's secret archives?" questioned Michael. "The security is impenetrable." "We have allies within the Holy See," replied Sarah. "The buffalo's appearance itself divided the Curia. Some cardinals believe it's a divine sign for certain truths to come to light." While others fear exactly that, added Emily somberly. Michael's cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Cardinal Sullivan. Trust no one. The Brotherhood is compromised. Arrange a meeting with Monsignor Gregory at the Apostolic Library. He knows the access to the third fragment. When Emily parked at an isolated inn on the outskirts of the city, night had already fallen completely. The place seemed abandoned, but a solitary light shone in one of the windows. "Is it safe here?" asked Michael. "For now." Emily turned off the engine. "Tomorrow we'll leave for New York. From there we'll catch a flight to Rome." On the inn's porch, a female silhouette appeared, making Sarah smile with relief. "Catherine!" she exclaimed, running to embrace a woman of approximately 60, with short grey hair and a penetrating gaze. "Dr. Catherine Thompson, my mother," introduced Sarah, "and also the main historian of the Brotherhood of the Staff in America." "Catherine," greeted Michael with a firm handshake. "Finally we meet the man chosen by the buffalo," she said with an enigmatic smile that closely resembled her daughter's. "Our time is running out, Professor. The staff has been waiting for almost 5 centuries to reveal the truths that can transform the Church and the world." St. Peter's Square glistened under the Italian morning sun as Michael, Emily and Sarah crossed the open space, trying to appear as simple tourists. Catherine had remained in America to protect Mrs. Williams and coordinate the other members of the Brotherhood. "Monsignor Gregory will meet us at the entrance to the Apostolic Library at 11 o'clock, whispered Emily, discreetly checking her watch. "We have authorization for academic research, but our time will be limited." Michael observed the basilica with a mixture of admiration and apprehension. 3 days had passed since their escape from Charleston, and the feeling of being watched had not left him during the entire journey. "Are you sure we can trust this, Monsignor?" he asked, still troubled by Cardinal Sullivan's warning about the Brotherhood being compromised. "Gregory Miller is the grandnephew of Pope Paul VI, explained Sarah. "His loyalty to truth surpasses any institutional commitment. It was he who first noticed the mark on the buffalo's forehead during the incident." At the entrance to the Apostolic Library, a man of approximately 60 with a black cassock and a discreet pectoral cross was waiting for them. Monsignor Gregory had a thin, serene face with intelligent eyes that seemed to evaluate every detail. "Welcome to Rome," he greeted them in perfect English, surprising Michael. "Our time is limited. Please follow me." The Monsignor led them through ornate corridors, passing through rooms filled with researchers and librarians. They arrived at a restricted area, where Gregory presented special credentials to the guard. "We are authorized to consult manuscripts related to missionary expansion in South America during the 16th century, explained Gregory, as they entered a private research room. "That's our official cover." When the door closed, the ecclesiastic completely changed his posture. From a locked drawer, he removed an ancient volume carefully wrapped in silk fabric. The Diary of Cardinal Alexander Farnese, grandson of Pope Paul III, he reverently presented. He was the first to document the existence of the Staff of Two Truths and its secret transfer to the New World. "How did you know about our quest?" asked Emily. "The Brotherhood exists on many levels." Gregory smiled mysteriously. "The buffaloes. Appearance was just the trigger for dormant members to awaken." From inside the book, the Monsignor removed a folded parchment, the third fragment of the map. "For centuries we believed the staff was secure, hidden and forgotten. But there are forces inside and outside the Church that have always known of its existence and feared its power." "The Guardians of Silence," murmured Sarah. "Precisely." Gregory nodded. "A faction that believes certain truths should never come to light. For them, faith depends on the preservation of certain mysteries." Michael observed the 3 map fragments now reunited on the table. Together they formed a complete image, showing not only geographic locations, but also precise instructions in archaic Latin. "The map indicates a location in America, but it's neither Charleston nor Savannah," he noted, studying the complete parchment. "It seems to be the Blue Ridge Mountains." "The Sacred Mountain," confirmed Gregory. "According to the records, Father Anthony Williams hid the staff in a chapel built by Jesuits that never appeared on official maps." A discreet alarm on his watch made Gregory rise abruptly. "Our time is up. We need to leave separately to avoid raising suspicions." "Too late, Monsignor," declared a voice at the door. Everyone turned to see Father Lawrence entering the room, accompanied by two men in suits who clearly weren't library staff. "Lawrence," Gregory frowned, "shouldn't you be in Florence for the conference? And miss this historic reunion of the map fragments?" The Italian priest smiled coldly. "Dr. Parker will be very pleased." The suited men advanced, but Monsignor... Gregory moved with surprising agility, knocking over a heavy bookshelf that temporarily blocked the passage. "Through the side door," he shouted, pointing to a discreet exit almost hidden by a tapestry. In the chaos that followed, Michael managed to collect the map fragments, while Emily and Sarah ran to the indicated passage. Gregory stayed behind, confronting the intruders to buy time. The narrow corridor led to a spiral staircase that descended to the lower levels of the library. Emily led the group, moving with the confidence of someone who knew the way. "How do you know where to go?" asked Michael, breathless. "I've researched the Vatican floor plan for years." She made a sharp turn. "There are passages dating back to the 16th century. House to escape during the sack of Rome." Emerging in a nearly deserted secondary courtyard, they were surprised by a vehicle that stopped abruptly in front of them, the window lowered, revealing Cardinal Sullivan's tense face. "Get in, quickly," he ordered. With no alternative, the trio obeyed. The car departed at high speed through the Vatican's side streets. "Eminence!" "How did you know?" began Michael. "Monsignor Gregory contacted me as soon as you landed in Rome." The cardinal seemed exhausted, with deep circles under his eyes and a grave expression. "The situation is more complex than we imagined. The Pope himself is aware of the search for the staff." "The Pope?" Sarah's eyes widened. "Yes, and he wants to see you personally in private." Sullivan looked at them intensely. "The buffalo appeared again this morning in the private gardens. No one managed to photograph or film it this time." The car was heading not toward the exit of Vatican City, but toward a restricted residential area. "Where are you taking us, Eminence?" asked Emily, suddenly alert. "To a meeting that will change everything you think you know about the staff of Two Truths." The cardinal checked the rearview mirror, making sure they weren't being followed. "It's time for you to meet the true guardian." Cardinal Sullivan's vehicle entered through a discreet gate into the Vatican gardens. Following a tree-lined avenue rarely seen by visitors, they parked near an ancient stone house with simple, almost monastic architecture. "St. Martha's house," identified Sarah, surprised. "I thought we were going to the papal apartment." "The Pope prefers the simplicity of this residence," explained Sullivan as he led them inside. "And it offers more privacy for conversations that shouldn't appear in official records." In the austere interior, they were received not by assistants or security, but by an elderly man in a simple white cassock, who awaited them alone in a small living room. Michael felt a chill of reverence upon recognizing the pontiff, whose countenance conveyed a serenity that contrasted with the tension of the moment. "Welcome," said the Pope in clear English, surprising everyone. "Cardinal Sullivan informed me about your journey and about what you found." Emily and Sarah made a slight bow. Michael, still astonished, merely inclined his head respectfully. "Your Holiness, we didn't expect," began Emily. "A direct meeting," the Pope smiled. "Certain matters transcend protocols. Please sit down. We have much to discuss and little time." When everyone was seated, the pontiff continued. "The buffalo appeared again this morning. It knelt before me while I was meditating in the gardens." His voice was calm, but his eyes revealed deep emotion. "The same happened to my predecessor in 1978, shortly before his unexpected passing." A heavy silence filled the room. Michael felt they were about to hear something that few in church history had witnessed. "The staff of Two Truths is not just a historical relic," the Pope continued. "It's a symbol of the Church's original commitment to absolute truth, above power or convenience." Cardinal Sullivan opened his briefcase and produced an ancient document with papal seals. This secret decree, signed by Pope Clement VII in 1527, establishes the Brotherhood of the Staff as an independent guardian of truth within the Church. It was created during the sack of Rome, when the pontiff feared the church might be subjugated by secular powers. The records we found mention that the staff was sent to the New World for protection, commented Michael. Yes, for fear it might fall into the wrong hands during the religious wars in Europe, confirmed the Pope. Father Anthony Williams was chosen as its guardian in the Americas for his integrity and courage in defending truth, even when it displeased the powerful. Sarah carefully placed the 3 map fragments on the table, forming the complete image. The Pope observed them with interest. "The final location," he murmured, "exactly as described in the Holy See's secret records." "But what is the true power of the staff, Your Holiness?" asked Michael. "Legends speak of discerning truth from falsehood, but it's not magic, Professor Bennett." The Pope smiled gently. "The staff is a symbol, a tangible reminder of the commitment to truth. Its power lies in what it represents. The responsibility to question, to seek truth beyond convenience or tradition." "Then why do so many people fear it?" questioned Emily. "Why are Richard Parker and the Guardians of Silence so determined to find it first?" The pontiff's countenance became grave. "Because symbols have power, Miss Williams. The reappearance of the staff, accompanied by the sacred buffalo sign, represents a call to transparency that many fear. There are documents associated with the staff kept with it that reveal uncomfortable truths about moments in church history." "Williams's truth decree," whispered Sarah, as if recalling a legend. "He wrote a testament to be revealed when the staff was rediscovered." "Precisely." The Pope nodded. "A document that describes not only the Church's historical errors in its relationship with Native Americans and enslaved peoples, but also proposes a path of reconciliation and reform that many, even today, consider too radical." A papal assistant entered discreetly and whispered something in Cardinal Sullivan's ear, who immediately tensed. "Your Holiness, we need to depart. Richard Parker has just entered the Vatican, accompanied by Cardinal Vasquez. They claim to have a scheduled audience with you." "I scheduled no such audience." The Pope stood up, surprisingly agile for his age. "You must go immediately to America and complete your mission. The staff must be found before Parker and his associates reach it." Approaching a bookshelf, the Yahweh's pontiff activated a hidden mechanism, revealing a small safe. From inside he removed an object wrapped in silk, an ancient bronze key with the buffalo symbol. "This is the key to the tabernacle where the staff is kept. It was entrusted to the papacy by Williams, with instructions that it should only be given when the buffalo reappeared." He handed it to Michael. "I entrust it to you, Professor. Your knowledge and integrity have been recognized by the sign." Michael received the key with trembling hands, feeling the weight of the responsibility it represented. "And what about you, Your Holiness?" he asked, concerned. "Parker certainly won't be satisfied." The Pope smiled serenely. "I'm only an old man who had the honor of serving the Church, but you carry the possibility of a new dawn of truth. That is infinitely more important than my personal safety." Cardinal Sullivan led them through a discreet passage that led to a secondary parking lot, where another car awaited them. "This vehicle will take you directly to the airport. A private jet is prepared to depart as soon as you arrive." As the car left the Vatican, Michael looked back one last time, seeing the imposing silhouette of St. Peter's Basilica against the afternoon sky. The mission that had begun as an academic curiosity now carried the weight of history and faith. And somewhere in the American mountains, the staff of two truths waited to reveal its secrets. Dawn in Tabidin Mine. The Blue Ridge Mountains painted the sky with hues of pink and gold as the expedition advanced along a trail almost imperceptible among the dense vegetation. Michael, Emily, and Sarah were guided by Catherine Thompson and two local men who knew the mountains intimately. Mrs. Williams had insisted on accompanying them, despite her advanced age, showing surprising vitality as she climbed with the help of a wooden staff. "According to the map, we're close," announced Catherine, consulting the restored parchment and a modern GPS. "The chapel should be in that valley, hidden by the rocky outcrop." The group stopped at a natural lookout, contemplating the majestic landscape. Michael felt the weight of the bronze key in his jacket pocket, a constant reminder of the trust placed in him by the Pope himself. How could an entire chapel remain hidden for centuries? He questioned, observing the indicated area that seemed composed only of rocks and vegetation. The Jesuits were masters at concealing their refuges, explained Catherine, especially those designed to protect persecuted people or valuable objects. They often built using the natural topography itself as camouflage. They continued their careful descent into the valley until they reached a rock formation that, at first glance, seemed a natural part of the mountain. Only a closer look revealed lines too regular to be the work of nature. "It's here," murmured Mrs. Williams, approaching the rock with reverence. "I can feel it." Sarah ran her hands over the surface of the stone until she found an almost imperceptible depression. "The medallion, Michael." He handed her the bronze medallion, which Sarah fit perfectly into the concavity. With a rotating movement, she activated an ancient mechanism. A creaking of moving stones echoed through the valley, revealing a discreet opening, large enough for a person to crawl through. 5 centuries of waiting," whispered Emily, moved, "and finally the moment has arrived." Catherine led the way with a powerful flashlight, revealing a short tunnel that opened into a small chapel. When everyone entered, sunlight penetrated through strategically positioned openings in the rocky ceiling, naturally illuminating the environment. The chapel was simple, built in the primitive Jesuit style but of touching beauty. On the stone altar, wrapped in a fabric worn by time, rested a long object. The staff, recognized Michael, slowly approaching. Before he could touch it, the sound of footsteps surprised them. From the tunnel entrance appeared Richard Parker, Father Lawrence, and 2 armed. "Fencem too impressive," commented Richard, observing the space with admiration. "Thank you for sparing us the work of deciphering the map." "How did you find us?" demanded Emily, positioning herself protectively in front of her grandmother. "Modern technology, my dear." Richard showed a small device, a tracker placed in your luggage when you were still in Rome, as simple as it is effective. Catherine stepped forward, facing Richard with contempt. After all these years, Richard, still pursuing power instead of wisdom. "Catherine Thompson," he smiled coldly. "Your daughter inherited your blind loyalty to antiquated principles. The world has changed. Absolute truth is a dangerous concept in times of relativism." "What do you intend to do with the staff?" asked Michael, trying to buy time. "Protect it, naturally." Richard moved through the chapel, admiring the carvings on the walls. "There are truths that need to remain hidden for the greater good. People's faith is fragile, Professor. Drastic revelations could destroy confidence in institutions. It's not your decision to determine which truths people can know," retorted Sarah. Richard gestured to his men, who advanced with weapons drawn. "I'm afraid we'll have to disagree on this point. Please step away from the altar. The staff and the documents that accompany it are now the property of the Guardians of Silence." A sudden noise at the chapel entrance made everyone turn. To everyone's astonishment, a dark, shiny-coated buffalo completely blocked the passage, its eyes fixed on Richard. "Impossible," murmured Father Lawrence, instinctively backing away. "How can it be here?" The buffalo slowly advanced into the chapel, making the armed men retreat in confusion. No one dared shoot at the animal that, according to legend, was a sacred messenger. Taking advantage of the distraction, Michael moved quickly to the altar. With the bronze key, he unlocked the small reliquary that protected the Staff of Two Truths. The object that emerged was of austere beauty, a dark wooden staff, carved with symbols that mixed Christian and Native American traditions. On the upper part, the figure of a buffalo supported a peculiar cross forming a compass rose. Beside the staff, a sealed parchment with Father Anthony Williams' personal seal waited to be opened. Richard, recovering from the initial shock, advanced determinedly. "Step away, Professor. You don't understand the consequences of what you're about to do." Michael held the staff firmly. The moment his fingers touched the ancient wood, a strange sensation coursed through him, not supernatural, but deeply symbolic, as if he were connected to a lineage of guardians dating back centuries. "The consequences of revealing the truth will never be as serious as those of hiding it, Richard." His voice acquired a surprising firmness. "This staff doesn't belong to anyone. It represents a commitment to truth that transcends individuals or institutions. The buffalo moved again, placing itself between Michael and the intruders. Richard hesitated, visibly disturbed by that inexplicable presence. Emily took advantage of the moment to approach Michael, taking the sealed parchment. Williams's testament, the document that can initiate a new era of transparency in the church. "You can't simply rewrite centuries of tradition," exclaimed Father Lawrence, desperate. "We're not rewriting, Father." Mrs. Williams spoke for the first time, her voice calm but powerful. "We're unearthing a truth that has always existed, just waiting for the right moment to come to light." Richard made a brusque gesture for his men to advance, but something unexpected happened. The buffalo emitted a deep sound, almost like a human sigh, and suddenly disappeared, not like a supernatural apparition that vanishes, but like a real animal that simply decides to leave, leaving everyone astonished. In the vacuum of its absence, the tension in the chapel changed. Michael stepped forward, holding the staff not as a weapon but as a symbol of moral authority. "It's over, Richard. The Pope is already aware of everything. William's testament will be read publicly, as he wished. The staff will return to the Vatican as a symbol of a new commitment to transparency." For a moment, it seemed Richard would resist. But something in his countenance changed. Perhaps the understanding that he was witnessing something greater than his personal ambitions. "You don't understand what you're starting, Michael," he finally said, lowering his arms in a signal for his men to retreat. "When certain truths come to light, nothing will be the same again." "And perhaps that's exactly the purpose of the staff," replied Michael with a serene smile. "Not to destroy, but to renew. Not to divide, but to reunite under a greater truth." When the sun reached its zenith, its rays penetrated the openings. In the chapel's ceiling, bathing the staff of two truths in golden light, a new chapter was about to begin, not only for Michael and his companions, but for a millennia-old institution that, perhaps for the first time in centuries, was prepared to face its own truths with courage and hope.